variation on that and certain heritage, but very rapidly, because in a uniformed way we're all seemingly slipping into a big dark hole of bad living, fast food eating, lethargia, negative attitude, stress. And with that, from one generation to the next, we are de-evolving the evolution of DNA and strength more rapidly than we ever did in the opposite direction, building strength. So the use of blue-green algae and green algae and/or green algae we would call imperative throughout life. This is going to keep you young, keep you healthy, and keep you vital. How I came up with this understanding is I did some research here starting about 15 years ago. And what I discovered is that our guests, who I knew had weaker or moderate constitutions, DNAs, literally were strengthening those. And after seeing about 40 or 50, I woke up enough to say, hey, let's start to test this. And when I tested it, time and time again, we saw as they maintained and proceeded with the use of blue-green algae, not only did they get better, but significantly better. People who had moderate constitutional states 15 years ago now have very strong constitutional states. And the rest of the program was not addressing this one issue, as we now know and are very, very sure blue-green algae and green algae are. If one has the ability economically to take both, would be very wise and very prudent. Another outstanding thing we've discovered with the blue-green algae is it creates activity and development of stem cells. Now let me explain stem cells. Many listening today, you know that's a very strong issue and one that I have very strong opinions on. Scientific research community in medicine today has shown us, and clearly shown us, without any shadow of a doubt, that if we take and harvest stem cells from aborted fetuses, that these stem cells, cells that have the ability to create any other form of cell in the human body, can help us. And sadly, they are right. But boy, am I horrified with the thought that we'll harvest aborted fetuses, because that can become a real issue in the future. Through many, many years of diligent research, we realized that there are two issues or two elements within blue-green algae, and we also believe grasses, that actually have the ability to create and multiply stem cells. Again, cells that help to create brain cells and liver cells and neurological cells, etc. The first happens to be the pigmentation that collects chlorophyll within these two powerful life forms, and now specific to algae. The second is a polysaccharide, and that happens to be a protein, a form of protein. These two themselves actually speed up the process of healing an individual. Now, I didn't know I had this question. I was missing part of the puzzle. I always understood how this program jacks up and strengthens the immune system, which inevitably, it's the immune system that heals you of any disease that you have. But what the puzzle was for me, and the area I hadn't questioned well enough, is why then, after an organ has the cancer removed from it or the scar tissue that's gone, how does that happen? And now the answer is there. With this newest discovery with blue-green algae, we realize that in fact we can build up rapidly and in a very effective and very strong way tissue mass in any part of the body because of the stem cell activation. So I cannot say enough about the use of long-term use, lifelong use of the algae, the blue-green algae and the green algae. Next, we're going to speak about the subject of supplemental herbs. Now, this is a big issue because today in the world we have a very bad understanding of herbal use. There are two camps, it appears, and both are wrong. One camp says that everything medicine does and pharmaceutical does is wrong and bad. That's not true. And one camp says that all herbal is less than medicine. Well, let's start with this number and statistics so you understand. Approximately 80% of the world's population, the main and only medicine that they use is herbal medicine. So 80% of the people in the world today, the only medicine they use, or practically the only medicine they use, is herbal medicine. This is medicine. So the group that looks at medicine and thinks that herbs are all safe and good and wonderful and can be used widely without any discretion, they're wrong, because these are medicines. And how many of you know that approximately 1/4 of the medicines that are made by pharmaceutical industry worldwide are nothing more than herbals today? That 25% of what doctors are prescribing you are nothing more. And the vast majority of the rest are just like we spoke about earlier in supplementation. Somebody that went into a laboratory with that plant, with that herb, and in fact synthesized it and made it, unfortunately, and many times a harmful, and not always harmful, but a useful form of medicine. The only medicine that's different than that are the ones that are made from rocks with uranium, that is called nuclear medicine. Everything else is pretty much coming from a plant. So when pharmaceutical companies start, they start with herbal medicine and change the molecule and atomic structure of it. 80% of the world, they survive and have survived forever on the use of herbal medicine. We must take this serious. We mustn't say, let's take herbal medicine any way we want it, any time we want. Mixing herbal medicine can be a problem. Mixing herbal medicine with pharmaceutical medicine can be a problem. Psychiatric medicine in particular, if you mix it with St. John's wort or kava kava, can have very large counterproductive effects on the brain of the person and even permanent damage on neurological function. So we must really explore this. Long-term use of echinacea, which is very common out in the world today, is actually going to create greater vulnerability to colds and flus and sniffles. The way that you would use echinacea, if somebody comes into your house with a cold or a flu, or in your office or in your work spot or place, that's when you take echinacea. Once you're sick, echinacea has no effect. It has never been proven ever to have any good effect or positive effect on your health. Then you may want to take something like OSHA or smaller amounts of sovereign silver. And this is what we must start to understand. Herbal medicine is a lifelong work and a lifelong education. And there's different schools of this medicine. Here in North America, we pretty much captured from the native Indians different herbs, and then we brought from Europe many herbs. The Europeans, as you see, have different geographic herbs. One in Spain would be quite different than one in Northern Europe. Why? Because there's different needs physically for a person there. If you go to the more well-researched and documented, we get into Ayurvedic herbs, and these are the Indian Asian herbs. Very interesting, but there's a multifarious, a large gathering of different opinions on this. The one that's most concise are what in the old days we called Chinese herbology. Today I'd rather call it Asian herbology. Just like in Europe, you look, there's northern China and southern China, and there's Japan, and there's Korea, and there's on throughout the Asian community. And these are the most well-documented, most scientifically well-researched in the world. When you start to look at this, it's something that can be very beneficial for you. But we must look at these as medicine. Very seldom should anyone take herbs long-term. If there is an herb you're taking long-term, here's the rhythm. You take it 3 days on, 2 days off, and every 8th week you take off. The 8th week is from the 50th day to the 56th day. So I'll give you the rhythm. 3 days on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 days off. Thursday, Friday off. Rhythm again, Saturday, Sunday, Monday on, Tuesday, Wednesday off. On the end of the 7th week, which would be the 49th day, you prepare for the next day, you take nothing. That would be the 50th day to the 56th day. Then once again, you repeat the pattern from 3 days on and 2 days off. Now, why would we do this for long-term use of herbology? Because it actually works more effectively. It's certainly more cost-effective for you. And why it works more effectively, it's chemistry. These are natural chemistries, but how they help you is they alter your biochemistry, your body's chemistry. And that's how we can change the terrain of disease in the body or illness. But if I constantly gave you the same level of medicinal herbs, this chemistry would be permanently at a particular level and not be as effective as if I gave it to you and took it away. One example I often use is if I volunteered to carry you for the next year, and everywhere I went, you went, and I carried you. What would happen after a year if I put you down? You'd be unable to walk. You'd forget how to walk. And it's the same thing with the body. You don't want the body to forget its natural biology, the natural chemistry. So taking it on and off is how we use long-term use. The other thing I may say, there are exceptions to this. If somebody's laying in bed dying of pneumonia, you don't stop and recess at that point. Then you need massive amounts of chemistry, natural herbal chemistry in this case, to alter and bring back the person to this level. But under those circumstances and conditions, we'd highly suggest that you would be using a practitioner, a licensed practitioner, to help you in that process. So this is really what we have to tell you about herbs. It's very sad to note that the rainforest, which is mostly gone at this point, held in South America a lot of the future medicines that will no longer be here. In Africa, the first continent that we all inhabited, where our ancestry came from, we literally wiped out that continent's herbal source and bountiful source of herbs there. The good news is there's islands like Australia where they're not very strongly populated, and there we have a whole future of herbs that are unique to that continent, hundreds and hundreds. The next subject, which I intentionally placed last, is about homeopathics. And we'll go back about 300 years ago to begin this voyage. If we look back 300 years ago, how all healing occurred was body, mind, and spirit. In those days, we didn't call it complementary health care or holistic health care. Let's imagine I'm sick. I'm laying in bed. My wife or my family have this hand. If I'm fortunate as a father, my children have this hand. My best friends are in the room, my family members. Depending upon where I am, who I am, a priest, a rabbi, a minister, a witch doctor would be in the room, and I'd be having a body, mind, and spirit healing. That's how all healing occurred forever. About 300 years ago, we began formally training what's now become allopathic doctors, what you know as medical doctors. And they started to say, leave everyone at home. I'm going to give you medicine. Remember, the medicine then was 100% herb. There was no other medicine but herbal medicine. And they fell into the trap that doctors seemingly are into today. When they had a very sick patient, they would give very large doses of and amounts of these herbal medicines, and often the person would be maimed or killed. There was a doctor who had the courage to go beyond that, and that was Dr. Hahnemann, a little less than 300 years ago in Germany. And Dr. Hahnemann admitted what I just told you, that when he had very ill patients, at times he wasn't helping them. Maybe it was counterproductive and harmful for them. So he had an idea and a concept that was way ahead of his time. It's really in the realm of quantum physics that we're just starting to scratch the surface of today. He said maybe it's not the physical part of the medicine, the herb, that's healing the person. Maybe there's an electrical frequency. He didn't use the term electrical frequency, but an energy or a frequency within the herb that literally heals. So he did something very bizarre. Let's imagine that this board is a giant herbal medicine and leaf. He diluted it till it was down to about 5 parts per million. We call that the absence of matter, the absence of substance, the absence of matter. He would then give it to people. He called it homeopathics, and 70% of the people then, and still today, almost 300 years later, had effect, had something good happen from that. Some major effect, some minor effect. Why not 100%? Because here's what he discovered. That when he unlocked that electrical frequency, it went in, and in many cases where it was appropriate and chemically possible, it would attach itself, that unlocked chemical energy, to the energy and frequency of your disorder, be it a virus, be it a bacteria, be it a mold. And it would reduce the frequency of that disorder by reducing the disease. 30% of the people, in practically every case, not the same 30 people, it's variation of course, would not have the level of frequency, both in the homeopathic tincture and in the body, work at the same level. But the next gathering of diseases or disorders, that person may be part of the 70%. Now this is really remarkable, and it's been confirmed by modern science with the use of energy photography, where they've actually gone as far now as taking a leaf and taking a scissor and cutting the leaf in half and rephotographing it. And what they find is that there's actually a silhouette of the energy still present where the leaf stood. Now this is quite remarkable because in our world of science that we've been taught about mostly from the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century is in fact that what we see, touch, feel, and understand is all that's real. But the 21st century science is going to be completely flipped on its back from this. I assure you, the new science is going to be what we don't see, what we don't understand, and what we can't measure is really what's important. And this is what Hahnemann was bringing us 300 years ago. And homeopathics have advanced since then. There's also been, from the beginning of the 20th century in the 1930s, Bach flower remedies that dealt with emotional disharmony, where he literally started to realize if you give a man or a woman flowers, we all smile, we're all happy, and we all feel good. He said, gee, there must be something going on beyond the flower itself. And he then started to extract the essence homeopathically and gave that to people for certain emotional, did 6 solid years of study on this work, and it has been very effective. There are new organizations that are going forward today who are actually using these for psychiatric disorders, physical disorders, and as we refine this and widely use it worldwide more so, we're going to have a better understanding of it and be more effective in our use of it. So today, I'm happy that we got to speak about the different supplementation that is going to make your life a lot better, a lot healthier, expedite the healing process, fulfill the nutritional needs, psychological needs, physical needs that all of us require on a daily basis.
Hippocrates is a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization. Our lifelong mission is to educate people on how to live a healthy lifestyle. Whether you are an alumnus watching this program for a review or seeing our work for the first time via these programs, we hope you will learn, grow, heal, and live to your highest potential. If we can assist you to do so, it is our honor, our privilege, and the reason we are here.